Viktor Gyokeres to Arsenal is massively heating up. Apparently, there's some kind of agreement in place. Now, I would take that story with a pinch of salt, but Fabrizio Romano has given an update on Gyokeres to Arsenal, which looks promising. Nico Williams is an option being explored by Arsenal Football Club as well, and that could be something that massively heats up after the Euros, with Arsenal reportedly willing to pay his release clause. And of course, Amadou Onana, another midfield option that could heat up after the Euros. So we're going to dive into all the latest Arsenal news in today's video. I feel like since the Sesko story sort of been over, there's not like loads of concrete information regarding Arsenal and their transfer plans. And that may be because their targets are at the Euros and they're not going to make moves after. But these last 3 or 4 days, all of a sudden, a lot of stories are heating up, not just with Gyokeres. There's some stories about Eze, there's some stories about Gyokeres. There's now stories about Nico Williams, there's stories about Amadou Onana. And we're going to focus on the Gyokeres, Nico Williams and Amadou Onana story in today's video and break down all the latest Arsenal news for you guys, starting with what's come out, and this was from the Evening Standard, that Arsenal agree a 75 million deal for Gyokeres. Arsenal could be about to make a huge move after agreeing a deal worth more than 75 million for Sporting striker Gyokeres. Gyokeres has been strongly linked with a move to the Emirates Stadium. Reports in Portugal claim the Gunners are very close to securing a deal for the Swedish frontman. It was then said that according to Portuguese newspaper Lieno, Arsenal are very close to wrapping up a deal for Gyokeres, and it said the deal is only tied up in financial details. Now, I personally know that Portuguese media like to expand on things, and I think if there was a 75 million agreement, David Ormsby would have said something by now. So personally, I would take that bit of a pinch of salt. But Fabrizio Romano did say if Arsenal decide to buy a striker, Viktor Gyokeres is a concrete possibility. And Romano's saying, he's very likely. There's a feeling that if Arsenal now pursue a striker, now they can't get Sesko, Gyokeres is the number one target. And we will talk about Nico Williams and we will talk about Amadou Onana in a second, but I do want to talk about Gyokeres to Arsenal. There's a lot of news heating up around Gyokeres to Arsenal. He's not at Euros. I think Arsenal will spend big on either a winger if they can get Nico Williams or a striker. I don't know if they'll sign a winger and a striker. I think if they sell well, they could get a winger and a striker, but I think they will spend big on either the winger or the striker, and I think they'll also spend big in midfield. I think they'll probably have 2 big signings in a midfielder and then an attacker, and then maybe a smaller signing in defence or a smaller signing for depth. It all depends on sales. But I think Viktor Gyokeres for the right price could be insane for Arsenal. 43 goals and 15 assists in all competitions last season is insane. That is 58 goal contributions in 4,000 minutes and 50 games. He was unbelievable with Sporting. Not just the fact that he was scoring goals, but his all-round play is good. Like, he's a striker that improves the team and the players around him. And the season before, he had a brilliant season at Coventry with 22 goals and 12 assists. Again, in 50 games. So what you get with Gyokeres is good injury record and 2 seasons where he's been a clinical scorer. Now, those seasons have been in the Championship and those seasons have been in Liga NOS, so it's a complete difference to move into the Premier League. Now, one thing I'll say as a Man United fan is Bruno Fernandes, not Diego Dalot, Nani and Bruno and Cristiano Ronaldo came from Sporting to Man United, and they were all very good signings. So I also like Sporting to Man United deals or Sporting to the Premier League deals. Those seem to work well. But I would say this on Gyokeres. I think he's a player that you can put 50, maybe 60 million at a push at if you really want him. But because he's had 2 good seasons and it took him a while to get going, is he a late bloomer or is he sort of, thrives in an easier league? That's the question with Gyokeres. I think he's a brilliant player, but he's had 2 good seasons. He's a later bloomer. It is still a risk to spend big on him, but I think he's an unbelievable player, and I think he'd be an unbelievable signing for Arsenal. I mean, these is FBrest statistics, 99th percentile for progressive carries, take-ons, touches in the penalty box, progressive passes recorded. He's a striker that can drop deep, get involved and play. He's a striker where it's not like he just needs service to be great. The best kind of strikers are strikers that are clinical, but also can get involved and play. Like Gabriel Jesus gets involved and plays so well and improves Arsenal's side. He lacks that clinicalness. With Gyokeres, you've got someone that can get involved in the play, but also has that clinicalness. He's also someone that contributes to a lot of goals. 96% off for assists, 96% off for non-penalty goals, 93% off for non-penalty XG. So he's technically overperforming his XG compared to other players. 98% off for non-penalty XG and expected assists. I mean, his statistics are absolutely crazy as a striker. And look, it's not all about stats, but you compare him to Sesko, he's a little bit more well-rounded than Sesko, but Sesko is obviously 21 and has probably a crazy higher potential. Sesko is a monster and in a harder league, but you look at his offensive actions, you look at his assists, he does get involved and plays a very good player. You compare him to Kai Havertz, and Gabriel Jesus, and they've got similar numbers assist-wise, but with Kai Havertz, he does play more passes into the box, although he was playing deeper a lot of games this season in midfield, so it's kind of hard to compare. But if you compare him to Jesus, that's only really played in attack, you can see that Jesus may beat him for things like passes recorded, but aerials, non-penalty goals, he does beat out Gabriel Jesus there, and a couple other statistics like XG. He's more of a goal scorer, and I think Arsenal, who had such a good defensive record last season, and I think they were really good going forward, they scored a lot of goals. But potentially, I think when you look at Arsenal, I think left centre mid and then either a winger to take the pressure off Bukayo Saka, that I think is ridiculously underrated. As a Man United fan, I don't understand why Saka gets so much stick. He's carried Arsenal for so long. But maybe a wing and someone that can play striker, an out-and-out scorer, although Kai Havertz is a great second half of the season, an out-and-out scorer that could be like your Haaland, or a winger that can take the pressure off Saka, and a left centre mid that's going to be a good passer and help him build up, I think would really, really take Arsenal to the next level. So why Viktor Gyokeres for Arsenal? Well, he's just a complete striker. He's way more than stats. You know, Sporting play in this complex system. They play in this complex system, and it's a pressing game, and it requires a lot of hard work off the ball and on the ball, and Gyokeres is able to do that. He's a clever guy, and Arteta likes to do these tactical adaptations, and he's clever enough to adapt to that, and he can work well with teammates. He can link up. He can create chances for himself. He can create chances for his teammate. He can press. He can do the on and off the ball, drop deep, do the tactical work, which I think would work well at Arsenal. I think he's provide a focal point in duels. He can win headers in the air. He can hold on the ball for teammates, and he can be that focal point, which is something Arteta has used Havertz for, you know, playing over the press. It's worked well. He's an insane goal scorer. I mean, he's hungry. He's good off the ball. His reading of the game, his ability to pop up in dangerous areas. You don't get those goal numbers if you're a bad player. Like, yes, this is only his second proper good season of football, and yes, he's in an easier league, but to get those kind of numbers, you literally can't be a bad player. I think something he does well is use his physicality really well. He uses his body well to create separation away from the defender, create space for himself to lay off a pass or lay off a shot. And I also think for a guy that's a good goal scorer, a good passer, he's a good dribbler. He can run the ball, he can carry the ball. I think he's got what you need. He's got the physical ability, he's got the technical ability, and he's got the finishing, he's got the off-the-ball qualities, the hard-workingness that you need to be an elite Premier League number 9. I think he's got all the attributes to be an elite number 9 in the Premier League, and I think it's a risk because he's had 2 good seasons, but also it's not a risk because he's got everything you need in a striker to make it work. He's clinical, he can drop deep, he can pass, he can parry, he's intelligent, he works hard. For me, he's a Premier League striker, and I think he probably would do well with a Premier League move. And I think tactically, you know, someone that can pass and move really well, really good at finding space. I think he's the kind of player that Arteta would want. So if Arsenal can get Viktor Gyokeres, I think they'll go for it. I think Arsenal will just be wary of the price. Maybe they'll wait another year for Sesko. I think personally, if Arsenal aren't convinced on Gyokeres, they'll wait another year for Sesko and put all their eggs into the Nico Williams basket. Now, Nico Williams is my first choice winger for Man United to get. Now, Elise is out of the market, although I think his wages is the big question mark there. But the Athletic, who is obviously the best source of information in the UK, have said that Arsenal have Atletico Bilbao winger Nico Williams on their wish list, and Mikel Arteta sees him as one of the preferred options if Arsenal decide to go for a wide player this summer. Arsenal have been linked to Nico Williams for a while, on and off, but he's clearly who they want. If they decide to go for a winger, he's clearly who they want. I think Arsenal know what they're going to do now Sesko's off the market. I think Arsenal know if they're going to go for a winger or go for a striker. I just think they are trying to keep the options quiet, because if Arsenal pursue someone, Chelsea all of a sudden start pursuing that player. I think Arsenal want to keep what they're doing quiet. I think they want to keep their business quiet and say the Euros are going on. We can't do anything till after the Euros. Let's not make it too obvious we want this player, because then we'll have Chelsea like they do as well. Now, said RAFC mentioned that Barcelona, who are the favourites to get Nico Williams, cannot afford the signing, cannot afford his wages, which may also put Arsenal in a preferred position. Now, if I'm going to be honest with you, just from a Man United fan perspective, I think the best move for Nico Williams this summer is Arsenal. He can play on the left, he can play on the right. Trossard is great, but I think he's more of what Arteta sees as that super sub option, that adaptional option that can come off the bench, is clinical and can score in and change the game. He's like Jota to Liverpool. Martinelli, I believe, is a top player. He's just not had the best season. And Bukayo Saka, I think, is one of the most underrated players in the league and had a brilliant season. But the poor guy just plays and plays and plays and plays. Nico Williams can play on the right. So if you need to take Saka off, you need to rest Saka. You don't run him to the ground. Saka needs a break. Saka gets injured. Instead of wearing Saka down, Nico Williams can play there. But he can also play on the left. He's predominantly played on the left this season. And that can be a real challenge for Martinelli. I think someone that can play on the left, someone that can play on the right, 21 years of age, just being unbelievable in the Euros so far for Spain. His dribbling, his one-on-one ability. If Arsenal get this guy, they've struck gold. You look at Nico Williams here compared to Martinelli and Arsenal, and he is that profile of winger Arteta will like. Nico Williams is unbelievable. These are his statistics. 19 assists. He can score. He can create. I mean, I don't think you'd get Nico Williams and Gyokeres, but if you had Nico Williams and Gyokeres in the same side, and Nico Williams providing service for Gyokeres, posh. 19 assists and 8 goals. That is 27 goal contributions. And I believe what was 30 starts as well. I think he only started 30 of those 37 games. 27 goal contributions in 2,700 minutes. It's always a goal contribution a game at 21 years of age at Bilbao in La Liga. You know, his goal scoring numbers aren't as good, but he's predominantly been playing more so on the left lately, but he's a good creator, but he can score. His ball striking is good. His 1v1 ability is really good. And I say, when I see Nico Williams, I see a two-way winger that can go outside, they can go in. He's fast, he's direct. I think 1v1 dribble-wise, there's not much better than him. He can go out wide, he can get down the byline, he can put in the cross, he can cut inside and put in a shot as well. He's very good 1v1. When he gets the ball, he loves to attack, he loves to push forward, he loves to move forward the ball, he loves to attack, he likes to put in a cross or shot, he likes to make things happen. He's a direct player. One of my favourite players at Man United is Garnacho. Although he's only 18, 19, he's 19 now, he just loves to get the ball and drive and run and make things happen. And that's why I love Garnacho, because even if Man United are doing nothing, which was most games this season, Garnacho was always trying to do something. And I think you get that in Nico Williams. He's one of the best, most explosive 1v1 wingers that can be good in transition, but also has the technical ability and passing ability and IQ to break down low blocks. But he's also hardworking and he presses hard. The only question is, you know, the potential wages around this deal. Lie. If Arsenal do get Nico Williams, I will be raving with jealousy. Which brings me into Amadou Onana, who is a player that has been heavily linked with Man United in the past, but not so much now. He's recently been linked to Arsenal, and I think this is one that Arsenal might go for. I think they were linked to him in January, and it was something they were exploring. Arsenal contacted Everton today on what has been a busy opening day for Everton over the Belgium international Amadou Onana. The Echo understands the Blues would be seeking at least 50 million. Arsenal made contact with Everton over the availability of the midfielder. Now, I know that Everton are very open to selling Amadou Onana. Now, I'm going to say something on Amadou Onana now. I've watched him, I've done a lot of analysis on him because of his heavy links to Manchester United. He's not an Everton player. Sometimes I watch him for Everton and I think, what a shite performance. And a lot of Everton fans don't rate him that much. I'm kind of want him gone. But sometimes I watch him for Everton, I think that guy's mint, that guy's brilliant. When I watch him for Belgium, brilliant. When you watch him in a possession-based system, good. What's Arteta? Possession-based system, good. When you watch him for Everton, half the time you watch him, he's amazing, and you think, that's the final piece of the puzzle. Put him next to Bruno Fernandes and Kobbie Mainoo, bosh. Sometimes I watch him and I'm not convinced. He's hit and miss. But he's not an Everton player. He's not a Sean Dyche player, which I think makes it so difficult to judge him. I think Belgium's 2 games he played for Belgium, he's been a beast. Absolute beast. I think in a possession-based system, with someone like Arteta that's proven to get the best out of players, look at Kai Havertz, for example, he could be a monster for Arsenal. I think when you think about him in a possession-based system with Arteta, he's made for that. I mean, he's an elite duel winner. I think he's 100% off a duel winning over 7 duels a game. Winning back the ball recoveries, duel winning, ground coverage. He's at the top. He uses his physicality, his height, his long legs, his stature to just run across the ground so easily and put his legs everywhere and make big tackles and stop transitions, and would further improve Arsenal's rest defence, which was impeccable last season. His work rate is very high. He's everywhere. He wants the ball. He can carry the ball at the pitch. You know, he's out of possession. He is your monster. Now, I do think Declan Rice is a 6. And Arsenal want a number 8 / someone that can also play as a 6 to go next to Declan Rice. That is a passer. There's more of a Granit Xhaka player. I think if I'm looking at the profile of midfielder Arsenal should go for, I think João Neves is the guy that ticks the boxes, but he's quite expensive. If I'm going to be honest, I think that is probably what you need, more of a passer. But I do also think that someone like Amadou Onana, with Declan Rice's abilities to play further up the pitch, and someone like Amadou Onana who does like to play further up the pitch, has it in his locker for sure. If you look at his statistics, he's just little defensive stats. You can just see what kind of percentiles he was in defensively, all around. Very, very good. Very good at winning the ball back, and that's something Arsenal will like. Now, I think he's a risky signing, but he's a great player. I think you won't see the best out of him until Arsenal rebuild is complete. Like, again, Havertz. I think we're seeing the best out of Havertz this second half of the season for Arsenal, but he started slow, and I think as Arsenal's system was being learnt by players, you saw Havertz explode. And I think he's one of those that is, once Arsenal sort of got their squad and their tactics figured out, could be good, but he might be a slow starter. I think they need a centre mid presence, someone that's going to be a long-term partner for Rice, and I think he can work. And I think the fact that he likes to get involved in the game, he's a good player. And I think if Arsenal pulled off Gyokeres, Amadou Onana, maybe Hato as well of Ajax, we've not spoken about Nico Williams this window, that'd be a good window. But I do think left centre mid, and I know they're looking at DMs and maybe playing Rice further up, but I do think that midfield partner for Declan Rice is such an important position that Arsenal shouldn't neglect this summer. Anyway, I'm going to round up today's video on Arsenal, the transfer news, and my thoughts on it. Please hit the like button. Of course, subscribe down below if you're new. Let me know if you like this update. I'm trying to do weekly updates on all the big 6 Premier League clubs, but I'm not doing Man United because I have my own Man United channel. So keep people up to date. Obviously, I know there's nothing concrete. There's no terms agreed. There's no official agreement. I don't believe that the Gyokeres deal was agreed. But I'm just trying to do videos to keep you guys up to date weekly on the Arsenal news, and the same with Chelsea news and all of that. So please do subscribe if that sounds like your thing. Thank you for watching. Bye.